So everybody has been telling me to watch this. Like, I'm wondering if I'm even going to learn anything because people have just told me everything that they learned in it, which is cool. It means like it was really cool and there's a lot of stuff that's like really interesting in it, so much that people like remember it and are telling other people about it. That means it's going to be good. So I think it's going to be good, but to be honest, I'm not even sure I'm going to learn a lot because like everybody in my Twitch chat and YouTube comments just like tells me like, if you don't know the story, and then they just tell me all these things. I will forever know all of these things after watching this. I'll see some of the finer details that people left out. Yeah, that's probably true. All right, let's watch it, guys. The volume okay, guys?
Square is buried deep into the culture of Japan. Originally a spin-off from Masafumi Miyamoto's father's Powerline construction firm, for over 30 years its games have helped power the rise of Japanese games development. There are no shortage of games that live under the Square Enix banner, but none as big as Final Fantasy. From our Western perspective, there's an air of mythos around the company. The accepted truth behind the series' title is that it was named Final Fantasy as it was Square's make-or-break game to avoid impending bankruptcy. And even if the real answer has more to do with creating an acronym that could be pronounced by both Eastern and Western audiences, it's that first story that gets told. That's the legacy of this series. Stories about adventures that get passed from generation to generation, as nearby as the arcades of Akihabara and as far as the playgrounds of Europe. As the Final Fantasy series has moved from numeral to numeral, there have been high points and low, but with each new game comes the promise
high points and low, and then they have a picture of Yuna right there. That was kind of messed up.
Of a new story, a new myth. The story of what happened with Final Fantasy XIV is one such myth. What we know about it comes from old reviews, archived message board threads, and through conversations with those who were there. The reason for this is that the original version of Final Fantasy XIV doesn't exist anymore. Unlike the vast majority of other old games, there is no way of playing it. It was redacted, painted over. Where once stood a game that threatened to sink the Final Fantasy brand forever, now stands the second most popular subscription MMO in the world. And as the years pass us, the myth of that original version and its incredible redemption story are at risk of disappearing. How did it all happen? How did the same studio that shipped a broken mess turn
Was that King Moggle Moggle? That was just a Moggle, okay.
It all around in 2 years? Why did they make the decision to keep the old version still alive while secretly working on a brand new game? And how did they manage to make all of this, the redesign and rebirth, part of the game's lore? We knew this was a story worth telling, not only for those who were there to see it all go down, but for the millions of you who have never heard about this, who never knew the extraordinary lengths the development team went to save this game. So we did just that. Pack your bags, friends. NoClip is heading to Tokyo.
That's San Francisco. That's not Tokyo. Maybe it was Tokyo. I thought maybe he was leaving San Francisco. Oh boy. I've never been to Tokyo. Looks cool. A lot of glitches. Is that? I guess that's like the editing style 5 years ago was like a bunch of glitch transitions. That's funny. I'm like legitimately worried my monitor's breaking. Like, like what? Like I've had this monitor for like about 4 or 5 years now. I'm like, yeah, at some point Japan would be really cool. Oh, meteor! Oh! What do we got here? That was a really funny transition. That was really smart. What? Are these like Final Fantasy commercials? Or those are just some guys he found doing a dance in the street? Danny O'Dwyer, that sounds familiar. Oh! Oh, I know who this guy... Okay, that's the guy who's speaking. Danny O'Dwyer, huh? That's the guy that makes these? I'm gonna look that up. Yeah.
and welcome to Shinjuku, Tokyo, home of Godzilla.
Yeah, so real quick. First off, this dude, Daniel Dwyer. I know this dude not personally, but like, he was a guest on the Giant Bomb podcast quite a lot actually. So like, I've heard him talk a lot about video games. Like, yeah, like I've heard this guy a whole bunch because I watched the Giant Bomb listened to the Giant Bomb podcast for like the last like 8 years, like a long time.
Godzilla, restaurants full of dancing robots, and Square Enix, one of the most prolific video game companies in the world.
Yeah, I didn't know he did this.
For the past few months, I've been playing catch up with this story, playing the latest version of the game, talking to players, and watching community retrospective series like the Speakers Network's fantastic fall and rise of Final Fantasy XIV. My goal, to make sure we asked the right questions when we sat down with the team. During our time here in Shinjuku, we're going to talk to everyone from the engineers who worked on the original game, to localization leads, community managers, and even the CEO.
That was Koji Fox, huh?
All to allow them the opportunity to tell their side of this fascinating story.
Oh yeah, well I'll watch more for sure.
Final Fantasy XIV happened in real time in front of millions of.
Yeah, I watched The Witcher 1. I'll rewatch it though. It's so good. Yeah, I've watched a few of his. I definitely plan on watching more in the future. But yeah, let's continue.
People around the world, but we wanted to know about this story from an entirely new perspective, from inside the corporate machine that made it happen, that led to its terrible launch and ultimately its incredible rebirth.
My name is Michael Christopher Koji Fonks. I am
There he is.
the English localization lead for Final Fantasy XIV. My middle name being Koji, it's not something I gave myself, it's a name my father gave me. My father was stationed in Japan for 2 years in the Navy when he was young. Went back to the States. My mom had me. They wanted to give me a Japanese name. The family was having none of that, so they kind of snuck it in the middle name, but then they always called me Koji, and so I guess
the GOAT. So this is like one of those things, like people talk so much about him and I'm like, I honestly don't know a lot about him other than he's by the way, it's a funny thing to stop on. He has really funny, I love like the names of like the puns that he does for like for like all of the quests in Final Fantasy XIV. And then I know he's in charge of the localization, which everyone says is great, and I definitely acknowledge that, but as a streamer having to read all of it out loud, I kind of have a little bit of a grudge against this guy, so he needs to prove himself to me. I want to learn something about him that makes me like him a lot more, because I'm a little bit sour from having to pronounce all of the crap this guy writes. Not saying it's bad, it's just hard for me to read out loud to the class. All right, let's watch more.
The joke was on the rest of the family. My dad being in the Navy didn't really learn a lot about Japan, other than he really liked Japan, but didn't learn any
That's
of the
really
language.
cool, though.
So I always knew that my name was Japanese, but beyond that, I really didn't know anything about Japan.
That's
but
really
there was always
interesting,
that
his
little
story
seed
of his
in there.
name.
And then when I got into high school, there's a Japanese class, and I like games. Oh, they make games in Japan. Hey, let me study Japanese. If I study Japanese, I can play all those cool Japanese games.
I get it.
Never come out over in America, and it kind of just snowballed from there. When I graduated from high school, I took a trip to Japan for 3 weeks.
Oh, dude, I'm already getting it. Like, this guy is like totally like the quintessential, like, as people would say on the internet, spirit animal. But like, really though, like, this is like a lot of people's, like, a lot of Americans fall in love with Japanese stuff. They study Japan a bit. They like, just have some kind of admiration with Japanese culture. So he's like the quintessential like American that like has this connection to Japan and like ends up like being a part of like the greatest franchise in, I was going to say, one of the greatest franchises in gaming history, like for sure, yeah. He also live translates for Yoshi P during big events as well. Nice, yeah. I was going to say the greatest game franchise in the world. I mean, maybe. I mean, whatever. It's all up to you. I think it's definitely like in like at least the top 5, probably top like 3, maybe. At least top 5. I'm like thinking like Zelda. For me personally, I love The Witcher, but there's so much more that Square Enix makes. So like, I don't know, like Bungie, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, Final Fantasy is definitely up there. Mario, like Final Fantasy is like in the top 5. I don't know. Like for me personally, I think it's probably top 3. But I don't even know. I haven't even thought about this very hard. Let's watch the rest of this video. I think that's why No Clip started with the video, with this part of the interview relates to the Western audience most immediately. Yeah, exactly. You're totally right there, Marcaroni. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Oh, yep. And FromSoft. You're right. 100%. Exactly. They're in the top 5 for me too. So, well, and so are we talking studios or game franchises? Probably studio would be a better way to put it, because then I can say CD Projekt Red rather than just, because for me it's CD Projekt Red. I actually really like Poland, and I have learned Polish, and I've been to Poland, so I'm really, and I've read the Witcher books, so like for me CD Projekt Red is kind of my, like, really special to me in a lot of ways, where like Japanese culture and like Japanese games are special to other people. But I mean, I love Final Fantasy too. All right, let's keep going.
Type of thing, and I fell in love with it. And during that period, I got to visit a lot of schools and a lot of English classes in those schools. And I thought, wow, I could probably do. I know English. I could do this. This will be easy. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, but I studied a couple years at a university in America.
Yeah, this is so many people's dream.
To Japan, started over 4 years at a university in Japan.
Wow.
That's great.
Got my teaching license, and yeah.
It's hard work being a teacher.
It's a cool
Yes,
story.
I mean, I loved it, but I mean, it was very draining. And that's why pretty much after you'd go to school 6 in the morning for morning basketball practice, because I was the basketball coach, because as my principal said, hey, you're tall, you're the basketball coach. Then you'd get into classes. I mean, I'd have my homeroom class, then I'd have 6 or 7 other classes teaching. Then you'd have after school. All of a sudden it's, oh, there's after school basketball, and then you'd get home and you'd correct. So I was really, always at school every day. It was very draining, and I would go home and I would play FF11. It was how I was able to relax, and being able to go into my little room and turn off the lights and put on my
this guy was playing
headphones and,
FF11.
get into that world of Vana'diel was something that helped me escape from the stress. And then it just happened to be, one day I was online, checking for
That was an S tier.
11 related information, and I saw that Square Enix was looking for a
One of my friends in high school played Final Fantasy 11. All of us played all the other Final Fantasies, and we all made fun of him for playing the MMO.
translator, and it just kind of, wow.
We're like, that's not a Final Fantasy game. We gave him shit all the time for it.
That would be really cool.
He was like the, yeah.
Koji wasn't alone. Final Fantasy XIV was launched in 2010, but the story of this game starts 8 years earlier with the launch of Final Fantasy XI, Square's first MMO, the early days of online. Many of the team who worked on 14 started on 11. One of those was Kasuga-san, who joined the company in 1999 to build a network infrastructure for this fledgling MMO.
自分はネットワークとサーバー担当で入っていて、なので一番最初にやっていたのが、当時プレイステーション2で初めて、厳密にはドリームキャストがその前にあるんですけれども、プレイステーションプラットフォームとしては、オンライン要素が入った初めての時期だったので、プレイステーション2でネットワークを作るために、TCP/IP のドライバーを作ったりとか、まだ当時モデム通信の時代だったんで。
Did you guys have any friends growing up that like had a PlayStation 2 that could connect to the internet? I had the one who played Final Fantasy 11. Like, that was like, for me, my friends were like, that's too hard, that's too difficult. I didn't even know, like, we didn't have Amazon back then. Like, how do you even get that adapter thing? Like, no, dude, I didn't know anyone that connected their PS2 to the internet. That's weird.
とか、あと ADSL がちょうど普及し始めた時期だったんで、ADSL の認証として使われた PPPoE とかっていうその本当にネットワークの下の部分、今だとあんまし誰も書かないようなところを書くっていう担当で入社してました。
EU に関して言うとね、スクエアエニックスって言いますか、スクエアが初めて、オンラインのあれだけの規模の、MMORPG 日本でやるってのはもう本当初めてだったんで、いやもう
I mean, it would have been cool if I did have it. I just didn't.
こんな言っちゃっていいのかな？言っちゃっていいの？OK なの？いいんだ。まずね、どういうことがあったかというと、あの時はMMO とかね、海外例えばウルティマとかそういった先行
Ultima Online. That's like the guys that made the Elder Scrolls games, right?
もう無謀の極みだとかってね。
Not Bethesda that made that?
ソニーさんがPS2 のハードディスク BB キットなんかもですね、もう何台出すんだとか、安藤がそういうの吸ったもんだし、い
Probably wrong.
ろんなことがありましたんで、まあほとんど不可能だとかでよく言われてましたよ、実際には。成功なんて。
11 was my first MMO. I hadn't played one before. I remember purchasing the PlayStation 2 broadband unit because they were all sold out. I ended up paying double on like some Yahoo auction or something.
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. You couldn't get it.
Ridiculous, but I had to play it. We got a new internet connection. We were on a regular modem at that time, but because
There was like no, yeah. I remember not knowing how to get it.
ISDN 128, you know. But yeah, it was definitely worth it. It was something that was completely new to me, but you know, fascinating. And ever since then, I've been into MMOs. That was the gateway drug for me, going in from FF11 and then trying, some of the Western MMOs as well, getting into World of Warcraft, seeing the differences between the two.
Personally, I think it's very different, I mean, here in Japan from the Western market because, yeah, it is for everyone in the globe. I mean, it's very first MMORPG on the console, PlayStation 2. And also, I mean, it was the first ever cross-platform MMO between PlayStation 2 and the Xbox 360. The obvious one is the most Japanese people don't really like to chat in public.
Right.
So, I mean, in the world, there's a lot of characters, but it's very quiet because people are using a tell instead of the say or shout. And then, but if you go to the Western world, game world, I mean, every single one is shouting around. So yeah, that's a huge difference.
While in the West, you have your EverQuests and you had your Ultima Onlines. In Japan, there was none of that. And then, so Final Fantasy XI was really one of the first MMOs in Japan. And so getting to work with basically the pioneers of the Japanese MMO was really exciting. On the other hand, I mean, you could also say that it was possibly kind of a curse in the sense that they were all, doing their own thing. They had their vision of what an MMO should be and what a Japanese MMO should be. And then me, again, not having played an MMO before, getting on this team and thinking, okay, this is an MMO and translating away and working in that project, I kind of, started thinking, okay, this is what an MMO is, this is what an MMO is. And then that one day I start playing WoW and it's like, oh, oh. Seeing the differences between the two and saying like, okay, what I thought was the norm in Final Fantasy XI, the grinding for 20 hours to go up one level and then only to have your level drop when you, pull too many crabs and it kills you and you've lost 5 hours work. Like, I thought that was normal. And then you're like, that's not normal, is it? The Japanese base game, Final Fantasy XI, had already released. And they were working on the first expansion pack. And you'd have, after school, all of a sudden, it's, there's
These 6.
God.
Pull too many crabs. And
Okay, good. We're right here. Dude, I'm sorry. I was trying to pause it right there because holy crap, losing a level, like, that's something that you don't see in these days. But it is something that like kind of speaks to me on like a hardcore level. It's kind of like a Dark Souls kind of thing, like or like Elden Ring, where it's like even I mean like Demon Souls and Dark Souls. I think in some of them you can you lose a level? Could you do it in like Diablo 2? I don't know. I remember there were games I played growing up where you could lose levels, and it gave me anxiety, but like it did give a little bit of excitement to the game. Even at max level, if you did not build enough of an XP buffer, you could still die, lose a level. Old school MMOs were brutal, but created a very social community. Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, Pazzo, you can go back and you missed 13 minutes. Yeah, you can go back and you can watch it.
Kills you and you've lost 5 hours work. Like, I thought that was normal. And then you're like, that's not normal, is it? The Japanese
it was
base
normal.
game, Final Fantasy XI, had already released. And they were working on the first expansion pack, Rise of the Zalart. I was part of the team that was working to get the base game and Rise of Zalart all translated before the Japanese Rise of Zalart was finished, so we could all release at the same time.
Right. Did you get it on time?
I got it on time. I haven't missed a deadline yet. That's
Imagine doing a raid and someone D-levels and they can no longer raid you because they can't equip their stuff. Dude, imagine how many times we fought Commander Nail. Imagine every 3 polls or something. Yeah, we all have to go out and level for another 3 hours. Oh my god, dude. I wouldn't play it. Yeah, no, it's a good idea that they stop doing that shit. Oh my god, dude. That's like why some games you couldn't actually beat back in the day. Yeah.
It's one thing I'm proud of.
Final Fantasy XI was a huge success for Square Enix. It established a concurrent user base of around 250,000 players for years. It was the most profitable Final Fantasy game ever, and at one stage was the 6th most popular game on all of Xbox Live. More than that, it established the Japanese style of MMO, and when the decision was made in 2005 to start work on a sequel, the new MMO was built around things that made 11 successful, focusing like most Final Fantasy games do on beautiful graphics and an interesting battle system. This new game was to be directed and produced by the same duo that shipped 11. Series veteran.
Right when they say things that made Final Fantasy, they're here.
Start work on a sequel, the new MMO was built around things that made 11 successful, focusing like most Final Fantasy games do on beautiful graphics and an interesting battle system. This new game was to be directed and produced by the same duo that shipped 11. Series veteran Hiromichi Tanaka and Nobuaki Komodo. Final Fantasy XIV was announced for Windows and PlayStation 3 in 2009, but behind the scenes the development team was struggling to put the pieces of its new world together.
ファイナルファンタジー14のその最初のバージョンの、自分が見た時の一番大きな問題点、最終的にそれが問題だったと考えているものっていうのは、その最初のコンセプトとしてそのプランナーがスクリプトを書くことによってゲームを作っていこう。で、利点として
You guys see that? Endless nerd.
は、プランナーが考えて自分たちで実装するんで高速な開発ができる。要はそうじゃないと基本的にはプランナーさんものを考えて開発者にエンジニアに相談してどう実装するかを決めて、でゲームデザインをする人はそのどういうパラメータをいじりたいかとかを相談しながらエンジニアと話をしてものを作っていかなきゃいけないんですけれども、そこの部分に関してスクリプトを導入すると自分で考えて自分で実現することができるようになる。
Do you guys what are the, so I watched that 1.0 trailer and they were holding these cards. What are these things? 'Cause they don't have them. Oh, they're what? Oh, dude, I don't think I've done one level quest. It's level quest. Stylish representation of lev quest. I don't even know what lev quest. Oh, is that? It's like your job. It's like the mining and like quilt makers, all that kind of stuff. Like this is like when you guys build me armor. It's like you have some of this stuff and you're like doing stuff with these. No, so no one does them anymore. Super out of date for leveling. Okay, yeah, I have no clue. These are all right. Let's keep doing it.
っていう発想でゲーム実装の大半がスクリプトで組まれてたんですね。で、そのスクリプト UI の問題もそうなんですけれども、ゲームも UI も基本的にはスクリプトで書かれていて、でスクリプトを動かすエンジン側がかなり負荷が高いというか CPU をたくさん使わないと動かない状態になっているんで。ちょっとした何かをするだけでもゲーム内で少し何かをするだけでも非常に CPU リソースを使うことになっていて、すぐにサーバーが回るサイクルが遅くなっていくっていうことが問題として発生していました。
Oh, they just didn't know how to build an MMO.
結果としてその
Which is weird because they did build one.
ゲームとしてサーバーで実現できるところは少ないですし、
They just couldn't. They just messed up. Like whoever was.
それを回避するためにどうしようとか。
Was this the dude that was in charge of it? So yeah, oh dude, that sucks. I mean, he's not in charge of it anymore then, right? Because whoever was in charge of it did not know how to do it. Because I mean, not like I could tell them how to do it, but they just did it wrong. Like that, and that is crazy that they did something wrong. A multi-million-dollar project, and they just did it wrong. Oh my gosh, dude, that is insane. How does that happen?
ということで、結果的にそのゲーム内容としてリッチなものが実現できなくなっているってことが起きてましたね。で、UI も スクリプトで組まれていたので、まあ、なんかちょっと処理するだけで
So
も
yeah,
すごい
this
時
is
間がかかるっていう
I already knew
のが
about this. So this is
Like I mentioned,
they're talking about that just like when like scripts would just keep running and like it just was coded bad. Like it just would just run and like everything just got bogged down and like their servers just got like destroyed and everything would go to like 3 or 4 frames per second. It's horrible.
before, again, localization being in a position where we get to see all the parts come together first, we were some of the first to realize that, Houston, we have a problem, that type of situation. I mean,
Yeah, we know the best way to do things based on something that worked on 5 years ago. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder. Yeah, I wonder. There was like a story I heard one time that like it was like I don't want to get it wrong and say like a country, but there's like I forget what country it was. There was like a country where it's like there was something with like there was like an airline or something. Where like I'm just gonna say this story wrong, but all right. I'm just gonna say it. So if I say anything wrong, sorry guys. But like there was like a country where like subordinates like couldn't like tell like their superiors they were doing things wrong, and there was like something with like at an airline where like planes crashed or something because like people like weren't like telling like their superiors that like things were going wrong when they were going wrong because like their culture was so like based off like just like respecting their elders and stuff. I have no clue if that's what happened. I mean, I'm not saying that's what happened, but like it's just I'm just like wondering like what the issue was that like nobody. It's common everywhere. Yeah, like I know there's different cultures where like you're not like always able to like speak up when someone's doing like the wrong thing. I wonder if that was it. I know like in Japan, like especially with Nintendo, they're very stubborn and like sometimes to like do things differently and like they like very like want to stick with tradition. Though I have absolutely no clue if that's what happened. They probably just did the wrong thing. I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, you had the battle team. They're like, yes, we have this great battle system, with stamina and these things that you can do. And then you had the story team. Like, yes, we have this story. Oh, hey, we have these guild leads and all of these parts. And everyone was really, really proud of their parts. Look at this grass. It's so beautiful. Look at this barrel. It's the most beautiful barrel ever to be represented in graphical form.
It's got as many polygons as the character.
Yes, and all of those parts, all of these teams, again, very, very proud of their work. I mean, the team was, put together with some of the best minds in Square Enix. You had people that were, leads that could probably even, lead their own projects, were all come together, and it became a lot of just tiny little groups making
too
something
many cooks
that was
in the
really great.
kitchen.
But once you put it together, it was kind of a mess. And no one really knew that, except for localization and probably QA as well. And we're like, okay, we need to do something. But by then it was one of those, it's kind of too late to do anything. But for us, we would
it's
be looking
Flamin'
at
In.
the text, and some of it, it wouldn't make sense, or it would just be very bland.
Did you guys see it? There was Flamin' In.
If there's any way to make this game better, what can we do? It's like, well, I can take this text and maybe add some more stuff into it, add some more flavor to it, and maybe that will distract people from the fact that the battle is not that fun.
At a fundamental level, the piecemeal design of the game was causing problems. Graphics were inconsistent. While many elements of the world were copy and pasted ad nauseum, some environmental objects had as many polygons and shaders as a character model. The battle system was just confusing. The game didn't have elements fundamental to most modern MMOs, things like jumping, auto-attack, and the ability to interact with the map using a mouse. It had a system that nerfed hardcore players to make sure they didn't level up too fast. The UI was confusing, crafting was incredibly complex and took forever, and simply there just wasn't enough content. The closed beta wasn't going well. They needed more time to fix these problems, so the open beta was pushed back to within a month before launch. The team knew there were problems, and they were getting frustrated.
で、今まで話していた仕事っていうのは大体その2010年の1月から、実際にリリースされる 8月ぐらいまでの間にやっていたことで、ゲームが本当に良くないっていうのがこう、みんなに認識されて自覚されていくっていうのは結局ベータが始まって製品版が始まってっていう、8月9月10月ぐらいまでの期間に起きたことなんですね。で、実際には こうチーム内の意識としてもリリース前そのベータが始まる前から本当にこれをリリースしていいものかどうかっていう議論はある程度そのチーム全体でそのオフィシャルであったわけではないですけれども、開発者の中ではやはりその
Yeah, they should have
世に
delayed
出
it.
していいクオリティかどうかっていうところは議論がありました。
When 1.0 was getting made, was the mentality that, oh, we're not like, that's like their thing and we have our very own successful thing over here, we're going to just make another one of those?
Right, and that's really what it felt like, is that we're going to continue doing what we did because it succeeded before, why wouldn't it succeed again? And seeing that direction, them taking that direction, and knowing that, having worked on 11, that yes, they were very successful, seeing the success that they had with Final Fantasy XI, seeing these great creators, creating something that was, revolutionary. But then on the other hand, knowing that what they were doing was, yeah, but maybe that worked 6 or 7 years ago, but a lot of things have changed since then. And
Yeah, and like the thing is like games didn't, like that was probably like around the first era where like gaming changed so quickly that like 5 years ago games weren't the same as they were like as they were that day. Like that was probably the first 5 years where like, because like even like if you think about like Super Nintendo to like 64, like Mario, it's still kind of fundamentally like the same stuff. Or a better example, I guess, would be more like regular Nintendo Mario to Super Nintendo Mario. Yeah, there's different things, but the formula's still the same. I would say even 64 is kind of similar, but like, yeah, this is like the time where like the games started changing like a lot quicker. Like whereas like things aged a lot faster, and like now, if you start making a game now and 2 years later, the game's not. Oh, nobody plays looter shooters anymore. Borderlands 3 sucks, like, oh, nobody plays roguelites anymore unless it's Hades. No one's going to buy your dumb game. It's like these days Battle Royale. Well, if it doesn't have this thing in it, no one's going to buy it. And that's why they do like the games as a service, or not the games as a service, but like the betas, the open betas, and then like the like big long trial periods where they add stuff as people are playing it, because things just change so freaking quick now, dude. Yeah, you can really feel the age of like, especially MMOs. And during this time, WoW had taken over the MMO space. Yeah, definitely. And oh my gosh, EverQuest to WoW, and then and then if they didn't pay attention to those and innovate, yeah, no wonder, dude, no wonder.
I think there was even one guy on the localization team that got to that point where he just got so frustrated that he just wrote this scathing mail and sent it out to the whole team before telling anyone else on localization he was going to write it. And then we all get it at the same time, the devs team. We're reading, it's like, wow, this is really terrible. I hope he doesn't, he sent it to the whole team. Because he just got really frustrated, because to him, they were being very stubborn. They weren't, they hadn't moved on. Whereas the rest of the world had moved on and adapted, with the release of WoW and what they had done.
Yeah.
Whereas, the team here was like, no, we're going to stick with what we know, and that's good enough.
Then start feeling more concerning the situation. This is not fixed. You announced the launch date, but it's not fixed. So, but still, some major portion of people are still thinking, believing, no, it's better, still better. Last phase, but still better. So it could be, fixed or changed at the launch timing.
Nope.
Kind of went from thinking, okay, this project's going to be great, to, there might be some problems. Can we fix them? Can we fix them? Okay, we can't fix them. Is there anything we can do? I don't know. It was, yeah.
Wow.
It was a very taxing experience.
So stressful.
The team crossed their fingers and hoped that the game's beta problems were simply that, the same issues that most MMOs have, ones that could be fixed with patches once the game entered live operations. And so Final Fantasy XIV Online launched on September 30th, 2010. It sold well its first week, and after a month had over 600,000 players swarming into its world. But it didn't take long for the cracks to appear. The problems in the beta were echoed by new players. The game was sluggish, the servers crashed, and Eorzeans quickly ran out of things to do. Quests were limited, and the fatigue system even made grinding for XP next to impossible. Critics ate it alive too.
Let's get right down to it. Unless you've got the patience of Job or some kind of masochist, you shouldn't play Final Fantasy XIV. Its problems are so vast that I could spend hours talking about them. The awful interface, the recycled content, the stringent limits on questing, the useless maps, the stupid market ward,
This is back when our game reviews had an electric guitar in the background.
these issues and dozens more constantly have you asking that age-old question, what were they thinking?
So, what was it like seeing public reaction?
Yeah, it was very, very disheartening, because you'd want to look at those and you'd want to say, no, they don't understand, they don't know, what's going on here, or but deep down, you'd know they were right, and that was what kind of, that dagger in your heart, and it's twisting because, you want to defend what you worked on. The people that I worked with are the greatest people. I still, work with a lot of them. I had worked with them before in FF11. I consider them not only coworkers but friends. And then you see people online, bashing the work they did, and I know how hard they worked. I know how many hours they put in. I know that, like, in the last 3 or 4 months, people were basically living at work, all putting their 100% into this game that was.
Oh my gosh, dude, that just like goes to show you, like, working hard at like the wrong thing, like, just because you're working hard doesn't mean you're gonna like make it and do whatever you're doing. You got to work smart. You got to make sure what you're doing is like the right thing to spend your time on. Because yeah, you can be staying there working 80 hours a week, but you're working on the piece of grass that's slowing the game down. Oh gosh, dude, that's a lesson, man. That's a lesson to be learned right there.
Destined to kind of crash and burn, and then to have people online just say, oh, that sucks, this person is a piece of shit, and their work is terrible. It hurts, but it hurts more because if I was not here and was a user and had played that game, I probably would have said the same thing.
そうですね、当時はね、私はCF をやってたんで見てたんですけれども、ローンチのタイミングやっぱり一番大きく違ったのは11の時のいろいろごたごたねと9の14の時のごた。
If I was
hold
not
on,
here
hold on,
and
hold on.
was a user and had played that game, I probably would have said the same thing.
Hold on.
そうですね、当時はね、
Did you guys see it?
CF をやってたんで見てたんですけれども、ローンチのタイミングやっぱり一番大きく違ったのは11の時の。
Did you see it? Liquid Death. They were playing. Dude, Liquid Death was playing the game, dude, as it came out.
いろいろごたごたねと9の14の時のごたごた一番違うっていうのは11の時はいろいろごたごたあったけどゲームに関して言うとさすがに相当やっぱり相当程度やっぱり受け入れファン相当のやっぱり評価されたんですよね。でオペレーション上のねトラブルとかっていろいろ多分あるっていうこれはある程度つきもので大変だったんですけれどもそれはあったんですけどゲーム内容に関して言うと非常に評価されたというふうに理解してますけれども前作の場合の一番やっぱ私はちょっとまずいなこれって思ったのはやっぱりゲーム自体の評価が非常に厳しいものだったということですね。これはちょっとやっぱり相当大丈夫かなというのをローンチした後ね、やっぱりそこはね非常にリアルに感じましたね。それはそうですね、ローンチして、しばらく経って、そんなに長い期間じゃなかったですね。そうしばらくなんでやっぱり相当なこのままで大丈夫なのかという社内でも相当やっぱり議論ありましたからね。
I mean, the first few months was just an endless stream of translating apology mails from producers and directors and finding out, trying to figure out different ways of saying we're sorry, because the more you say it, the less weight it has. But Japan being a country where people apologize a lot, that's part of the culture. but then trying to translate that, it's like, okay, this is the 10th time I've said sorry in this one post, and then from, you know, the American myself, it's like, yeah, people are going to look at that as insincere, you know, the more you apologize, the more, and then trying to explain that to the team, it's like, no, we have to apologize. It's like, yes, you have to apologize, but, and it just became, we weren't talking about the game anymore, we were talking about how to translate apologies, and it seemed like that lasted for, you know, a couple months.
Actually, we see.
Oh,
a huge
okay,
drop. I mean,
yeah. That's the time I'd quit. I mean, yeah, you're right. Koji is a goat, because that's what I'd be putting in my 2 weeks if I had to argue with my boss. I'm like, that you can't apologize 20 times in an apology letter. God, that sounds so horrible. Oh man.
right after the launch timing, we got some good number of the subscribers. Then that fall. I mean, as you can imagine. So I mean, it was failure, and we announced a failure. So we see lots of decline.
さっきも話した通り、
Wow.
実際にはその開発内でもその今リリースすべきかっていうか、リリースできるクオリティにあるかっていうのはベータ直前とかベータが始まってもそうなんですけど、常に疑問はあったので、リリースして実際にそのただ、
Yeah.
それまでに
shouldn't have
チ
been
ーム内に
released.
あった空気はそのやはり出したら意外と受け入れられる可能性があるんじゃないかっていう、その漠然としたその出せばどうにかなるのかも、その自分たちが思っているほど悪くないのかもっていう、その何の根拠もない希望的なものがあったんですよね。で出た結果、結局そんな魔法は起きなくて、やはりその自分たちが感じている通りにまだ世に出すには早いというか、世に出せるクオリティに達していない商品を出してしまったっていう気持ちはみんなにあったんで、
I'm like waiting
実
for
際にそ
somebody to
の
start
改善しなきゃ
crying.
っていうか、根本的に対応しなきゃいけないっていうところはチーム内に割とすぐ広がったと思ってます。なので特にすごいそんなことはないっていう意見がすごく強くあって、誰かを説得しなきゃいけないみたいなことは特になかったですね。
Yeah, I mean, they're lucky they're all still here to tell the story. I mean, like, goodness.
Today,
Someone
Square
get
Enix
fired?
is based across multiple floors in a modern office complex in Shinjuku, Tokyo. It's a company that is often designing multiple projects at once. And while Final Fantasy XIV was being developed, in another part of the building a different game was being made. Produced by a Final Fantasy fan, his name, Naoki Yoshida.
一番最初はファミリーコンピューターUS だとエンターテインメントシステムかのマリオブラザーズが一番最初にプレイしたゲームです。とにかくそのテレビの中、
That was my
テ
very
レビっ
first
ていう
game
のは
as
そ
well.
の見るものだと思っていた子供の時に。ところがそのマリオブラザーズで初めてそのコントローラーを握ってゲームをプレイした時に、まずそもそもテレビのものを自分が自由に動かせるっていうことがものすごいショックで、友達の家でプレイさせてもらったんだけど、
It's him, guys, it's him, guys.
ものすごい興奮したのを覚えてますね。ドラゴンクエストっていう日本で RPG を大きく広めたタイトルを初めて触った時に、アクションではないゲーム、数字のやり
Dude, he looks so bored of this interview, by the way.
取りでこんなにまたさらにゲームは面白くなるんだっていうのを、特にストーリーラインがあってっていう、また次のカルチャーショックを受けて RPG っていうジャンルにものすごく
Dude, look at those rings, dude. Dude, that one gives him like +5 charisma. This one gives him like +2 like intelligence. This one gives him like, I don't know, what's another skill. He's just always tired because he's always making more expansions.
なんだろう、フォーカスしていくことになったかなとは思います。当然その翌年に出たファイナルファンタジーにもその映画的な
Yeah, dripping with
ファン
glam.
タジーをより強く打ち出したっていうところにもすごい衝撃を受けてたので、やっぱり僕の中でドラゴンクエストとファイナルファンタジーっていうのはすごい大きかったですね、当時。
Like most Japanese players at the time, Yoshida-san played all the early Final Fantasy games. He holds them in high regard, though he still holds the bitter memory of not being able to save before the last dungeon in Final Fantasy III. But when he was 11 years old, a brand new type of gaming experience arrived at home. His uncle gave him a PC. On this PC, the young gamer learned how to program BASIC. His first video game centered around trying to break into a bank vault. But this PC also exposed him to a spectrum of gaming that eluded most Japanese players. Western role-playing games. He fell in love with games like Diablo and was stunned when he first went online and played with other players.
That's
で
what's
その
up.
翌年にウルティマオンラインをベータからプレイし、先輩にとにかくすげえゲームあるって言われて、ウルティマオンラインをベータから始めたのが初めて MMO をプレイした作品で、やっぱり同じようなその3回目の衝撃、3000人が同時に一つの世界で遊ぶっていうのがもうとてつもないまた衝撃でしたね。まあウルティマは本当に自由度のウルティマオンラインは特にとにかく初期は自由度がめちゃくちゃ高いゲームだったので、そのいわゆるロードの称号をつけたそのなんて言ったらいいんだろうな、すごく紳士的なというかコミュニティリーダー的プレイをするキャラクターと完全に悪のプレイヤーキラーをやるキャラクターを2つ作って、
Dude,
どっちも
Yoshi piece of troll, dude. He plays the heel.
ものすごい遊んでたし、やっぱりその MMORPG っていうゲームがどう作られているのか、どういったエンジニアリングが必要なのかっていうのもものすごいそこで勉強させてもらったと思います。もうその頃からはコンソールと同じぐらいの比重で PC でゲームをかなり遊ぶようになってたので、自分で PC パーツ買ってきて組み立てたりしてたし、でやっぱりそのあたりで FPS もかなりプレイし始めてたし、特に 3DMMO のスタートであるエヴァクエスト、その後プレイをし始めて、当時エヴァクエストのパッケージを日本で手に入れるのが本当に大変で、出張で東京に来た時に秋葉原をね時間を作ってゾンビのように店をこううろうろして、エヴァクエストってゲームないですか、エヴァクエストってないですかって。
Yoshida-san would embark on a career in games that would eventually see him joining Square Enix to work on the Dragon Quest series. Though he wasn't working on the
I've
Final
never played a
Fantasy
Dragon
team,
Quest
he
game.
was part of the umbrella group that was allocating programmers to various projects. He didn't have granular visibility on FF14, but he knew the team was struggling. I asked from his perspective as a producer where he thought the game's problems were coming from.
まあわかんない、これ広報にカットされるのかもしれないけど、クリスタルツールズって呼ばれるミドルウェアを全社でその作ろうとしていたので、腕のいいプログラマーが全部そのチームに各なんだろうゲームラインから招集されて、そのメインプログラマーがみんないないっていう状態になってしまったので、どのプロジェクトもものすごい大変な時期だった。まあオリジナルの14がああなってしまった理由の一つでもあるかなとは思いますけど、さらに2つ大きな問題がそこに絡まっていて、スクエアエニックスその全体にプレイステーション2のジェネレーションで本当に世界一クオリティ、グラフィックスのクオリティが高い、そしてゲームエクスペリエンスがものすごく詰まったゲームっていうのをたくさんリリースしたので、本当にこうなんていうんだろう、ある意味自信過剰にもうなっていた時期で、自分たちが世界一だし、自分たちのグラフィックスこそが世界一だし、その作り方はその自分たちにしかできない。だからなんだろう、でも超巨大な成功体験ってやっぱり足かせというかにもなる例だと思うんですけど、ものすごくおごってた、まあ悪い言い方をすればおごってた時期だったと思うんですね。まず例えると、その刀を作る刀匠のような職人たちが本当にたくさんいて、彼らが一つずつを手作りで作って世界一のクオリティを作り上げていたんだけど、実は世界は、まあ、特にその北米を中心にテクノロジーでそれをカバーするっていうところをずっと追求してきた時期で、プレイステーション3の世代になった瞬間にテクノロジーの方がそれを上回るっていう時期が来たせいで、作り方を変えようとはしないし、だけどテクノロジーも追いつけないっていう ことからさらにそれを知ってるはずのプログラマーたちはミドルウェアの制作に行ってるっていう状態で、でもグラフィックス作ってるそのアーティストたちは自分たちの作り方こそが世界一だと思ってるので、古い作り方で引き続きものすごく負荷のかかるやり方でアセットを作ってたので、もうそれらが絡まってっていうのがまあもう一つの大きな、さっき2つあるって言った問題の一つ目が。
Another great example of like, thinking that if, oh, well, it takes me 10 hours to make this like one little thing, and then like that means it's good, but like nobody notices it in the game, and it's like, dude, that was a waste of time. You could have been doing something. You could have made all of the things that, like instead of just that one item, you could have made like, instead of like the one mug or the one sword or whatever it is, you could have made all of them if you created the tools to do all of that. Yeah, like, yeah, it's just, yeah. Anyways, let's keep watching.
それですね。もう一つはプライドはいついかなる時でもとても大切なものだとは思うんですけど、そこにやっぱり超巨大な成功体験をしたっていうこと自体が乗っかってきちゃうと、その自分たちの作るゲームこそがベストであって、
Yeah.
他をあんまり見る必要がないっていう時期でもあったんじゃないかなと思っていて、例えば当時世界多分 MMORPG を知ってる人に世界最大の MMORPG は何ですかって言ったら100人に聞いたら100人がワールド・オブ・ウォークラフトって言ったはずなのに、誰もプレイしてない。
They weren't even
開発チーム
familiar
が
with it.
これはワールド・オブ・ウォークラフトを知ってるか知ってないかっていう話だけの話をしてるんじゃなくて、その自分たちが世の中に対して新しいそのビデオゲームをリリースしようとするときにライバルになるタイトルは何だろうとか、ユーザーは今プレイヤーはどこにそのゲームエクスペリエンスの最新の状態をプレイしてるんだろうっていうのを知らないっていうのが、その感覚として僕には結構信じられない。なんでもっとみんなゲームプレイしないの？だって自分たちが今どの辺りにいるか分かんなくなっちゃうよっていうのがまあ言いたい。で特に14の場合に関してはもちろんファイナルファンタジー11の超巨大な成功体験っていうのが邪魔をしたっていうのもあるとは思うんだけど、あの当時はエヴァークエストを徹底的にプレイをしてだからこそ11を作ったはずなのに、新しいレストランをオープンするときに隣にあるレストランがどんなメニューを出していてどんなサービスをしているかを知らずにレストラン
Yeah, but like I said before, he's given the example of one restaurant. This is more like launching a chain of 400 restaurants and like not even checking if like people like the kind of food that you're making on the menu.
回転させる人はいないんじゃないって。
So just the launch stage then of 1.0, what was the feeling
Wow.
within Square Enix? The beta was quite close to launch. Were people anticipating that there would be negative feedback, or were they less aware that that was going to happen, I guess?
僕は他のチームにいてすごくベータの評判が悪いっていうのはネットでニュースは見てましたね。ただ多かれ少なかれ MMORPG のローンチは絶対にまあ荒れやすい、サーバーがすぐ落ちるとかまあストレステストをやってるけど、プレイヤーの方は遊びたいからやっぱりサーバーが落ちるとやっぱりすごく文句を言って当然だと思いますし、だから僕もやっぱり11を作ったチームだからまあそうは言っても11のやっぱり完成度が高いので、そこと比較をしてあの機能がないこの機能がないっていう話をしてるのかなっていうふうに思ってた。僕は僕自身の開発が忙しかったのもあって、ただそれも少しずつ収まっていくんだろうなっていうふうに僕は当時は見てた。ただ別の角度、今度はそのオリジナルの14チームの中のその視点としては、このままだと本当にまずいもっと時間をかけて品質を上げないとっていう、もちろん声を上げる人たちもいたけれど、会社ってまあ全体の判断としてはファイナルファンタジー11のスタートもそうだったと。機能たくさんなかったし、ものすごくネガティブなフィードバックもたくさん来たけど、パッチでどんどん直していって 11は完成したんだから14も大丈夫だと、最初は絶対こうなんだっていう風に判断したのでベータを終わらせてリリースへ踏み切ったっていうのが当時のジャッジだったって、僕はチームに入ってからインタビューをしてそれを確認したので、チームの中ではやっぱり議論はあったそうです。あのままじゃダメ、まずいっていう話は。ただ最終的なジャッジは今お話しした通り11の時もそうだった、でも11だってずっとパッチを続けてああなったじゃないかと。
Eventually, corporate realized that this wasn't usual launch problems, so they called on a few select members of the team to create a task force. This task force would research what changes the game needed and the resources the development environment would require to do the work. Members of that team would talk to Yoshida-san about their worries after hours. His thoughts were that the current organizational structure would need to be modified if the team was going to make the changes required. In October of 2010, Yoshida-san talked to the then Square Enix president Yoichi Wada and suggested they initiate a company-wide emergency to get the team the resources they needed. Wada-san spent a few days talking to the 14 development team about their concerns, and while a lot of the team had suggested that the current task force was in fact up to the task, some members of the 14 team had pleaded to have Yoshida-san join the project to help. And so it transpired that in late November, corporate took the decision to remove Hiromichi Tanaka from the team and move Nobuaki Komodo from director to lead designer. Both of their vacant positions would be filled by Yoshida-san. At that time, he was leading a team that was working on an original IP.
Dude, just make both of them redundant. Dude, like a boss. I'll take both your jobs.
IP for Square Enix. He was disappointed to leave that team, but excited for the opportunity to work on one of the company's crown jewels, a numbered Final Fantasy game. So, he got right to work.
やらなきゃいけないことが当時3つあると思ってて、順番にやってったんですけど、まずそのチームにオリジナルのチームにトップが変わります。で、あとそのタスクフォースメンバーもそのまま開発コアとしてリードに入りますっていう当然話をしなきゃいけない全チームに。ただ僕はドラゴンクエスト側のゲームを開発することが多かったので、そのほとんどのスタッフを知らないというか、顔と名前ぐらいは知ってるスタッフはいたけど、その一緒に仕事したことがある人がほとんどいなかったので、まず「Say hello」っていうところからで、一度もみんな仕事したことがないからどんな仕事をする人間なのかを見てくれればいいよってまずで、こいつダメだと思ったらチームを抜け。
Dude, and you have to say that. That is so. He did the right thing, dude. That's so hard. Like that. Yeah. Holy crap. Now he's gonna go in. He wasn't even working on the game, and all these people that worked forever on the game so hard, now they have to listen to like what this guy says. That's got to be so difficult. But yeah. If you think I suck, then get out of here. Yeah, dude. Dude. I need to put that on the top of my chat. I'm pinning that. If you think I suck, get out of here. That's the new motto for my stream, Pazzle. Thank you. Oh, that's great. Thank you. All right, let's keep watching.
構わないからっていう話を最初にして、一緒に仕事してみよう。でも1回はいいよねって。でそれでダメだと思ったら本当すぐ抜けて構わないから3ヶ月ぐらいまず一緒にやろうよっていう話を僕スピーチでした記憶があります。でもう1回チャレンジするよ。当然その時申請するなんて話はまだ計画がなかったので、とにかく立て直しをやるよと、ギブアップはしないよっていう話をした時に僕を知ってる何人かは
We need to sorry, that is really we need to pin that to the top of the stream every time. That's really funny, Basil.
よしやるぞっていう人たちと、もう無理だよっていう人たちと、なんだよこの急な体制変更って言って怒ってる雰囲気の人たちとっていうのが大体のその時の雰囲気でしたね。そんな中で今も14のサウンドディレクターやってる曽健が、その話をしてた時と大きなホールだったんですけど、2階のサウンドブースで僕のマイクの調整とかやってくれてて、その曽健があいつだけですよやり直すぞっていうか、その リベンジするぞって言ったらガッツポーズしてたのはあいつだけです。今でも覚えてますよ。2階席でおっしゃーってやってたんであいつ。
I saw both reactions. I saw the, oh my God, we just went through a year of hell and now he's asking us to go through a year and a half of hell to this point that might, be another failure because, no one had taken a game and rebuilt it in this manner before. So basically saying like, yeah, you just have to trust me and yeah, you could, waste another year and a half of your life and it could be a failure and, but you're gonna have to believe me on this one. And so, yeah, a lot of people are like,
Yeah, true leader right there.
can't do this anymore. I don't know, and I can understand that because again, it was a gamble. But then on the other hand, there were, a lot of us, myself included, but a lot of people on the team that were like, no, we worked so hard on this, and we did our jobs the best that we could. But for a lot of reasons, some circumstances that were out of our control. Decisions made by higher ups, decisions made by other teams that affected our work, and nothing that we could do about it. But we had put our all into it, and we were invested in the project. We still believed in the project. To have someone from the outside come in, and not just come in to say, okay, forget it, we're just going to do it my way or the highway. He's like, he asked our opinions. He laid out a roadmap. He gave us a vision and a hope, and even though it seemed like it would be difficult to achieve, it didn't seem inconceivable.
Yoshi P knew there was no time to wait. He worked with corporate to make sure the team had time off, both for them to relax, but also to give him time to build his new vision, to do research playing other MMOs, and to help draft his plan, to deliver the vision and how the team was going to do it. They had very
Heck
little
yeah.
time to fix this game, so once they started,
He's like, listen, you want me to make your game? I'm gonna need 4 weeks in a World of Warcraft submission, and I want you guys to deliver Mountain Dew and Taco Bell to my apartment. And they probably said, yeah. That's awesome.
the specifications
Oh, and I need everyone else in my guild the same thing, and we need new PCs.
document would have to be watertight, and as captain of the ship, he needed to be able to answer every question the team may have, quickly.
Yoshida-san was now at the helm of his first Final Fantasy, and as an avid MMO fan, he was looking forward to getting in there and fixing it. What he couldn't have known at this stage was the scale of the job ahead of him, that no matter how much they patched Final Fantasy XIV Online, they couldn't ever fix it. What they'd have to do was something that no developer had ever done, to rebuild an entire MMO while the original version was still running.
I don't think that they realized immediately that it was something that couldn't be solved via patches. I think they still believe that, if we patch it, it'll be fine. And it wasn't until they reevaluated and then brought in, the new blood. Yoshida-san came in and told them, okay, yeah, this is not something that can be patched. If we want to fix this, we're going to have to take a drastic step.
Yoshida spent 7 weeks researching and returned with 2 options for corporate. It was then he realized that it would be impossible to convert the current game into an MMO that could last the test of time. Ultimately though, this was a decision that corporate had to make, so he returned with not 1, but 2 plans, Plan A and Plan B. During this meeting, he explained that Plan A would be to patch the game and make it more playable, but that ultimately the game would never really satisfy players, and though Square Enix may make their money back, the damage to the online brand would be catastrophic. And then there was Plan B.
今のファイナルファンタジー4、当時のオリジナルのファイナルファンタジー14をパッチを当てて、できる限りポジティブに遊べるものにしながら、裏で全く新しいそのファイナルファンタジー14をもう一度作り直すっていうのがプラン B で、その話だけを聞くと、そんなバカなってなるので、当然どうやってそれを達成するか、チームを2つに分けて、で、どういったそのマネジメントスタイルでそれをやるのかで、大体発売時期はプレイステーション3版をリリースするっていうのがプレイヤーとの約束だったので、プレイステーション3の寿命が来る前にリリースしなきゃいけないので、2012年年末から2013年中には絶対リリースできるこの計画であればっていうプレゼンテーションをして、リスクは高い、ただ当然そんなことをしたことはないし、ゲーム業界でしかも同じタイトルで作り直してるから、 うまくいったとしても成功するかどうかは分からない。ただ少なくとも
Look, that was one of those things, like naming it the same game and releasing it, and it's just a different game. That for sure is a confusing thing. Like, that's like, I guess the tag A Realm Reborn, that helped. But I remember at the time that was confusing. But I still bought it, so it's not like it was a bad idea, I guess. But it was like kind of a joke. Like, I remember laughing about it. It was just like, it's 13 again. Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
やっぱりファイナルファンタジーってクレイジーだねとかすごいことするねとか、少なくとも自分たちがミスしたことを認めて信頼を取り戻そうとしたっていう努力は見てくれてる人は多分見てくれるだろう。だからどっちをチョイスするかは会社に任せる。ただどっちであっても全力でやるよっていう話をプレゼンテーションして、まあ、結果的にはねプラン B でって言ってくれたんで今こうなってますけど。
And that's that. And now we have
Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 was in a state of disarray. Square Enix had decided to suspend subscriptions to help ease the negativity around the game, while the PS3 version was indefinitely postponed. For the next 2 years, Yoshida-san and his team would work tirelessly on not one, but 2 MMOs, patching the original 1.0 to fans' expectations, while secretly working on a brand new version of Final Fantasy XIV. In our next episode, we focus on that 2-year period and tell the incredible story of the falling moon of Dalamud, the death of 1.0, and the birth of a new Eorzea.
Eorzea. Oh, is this gonna be a... Oh, it's gonna be it all. Oh, goodness. Credits. Okay, cool. That was great. Okay, let's roll the credits and talk about it a little bit. Yeah, let's do a slow clap there. Yeah, good job. There you... Danny Dwyer, old boy, you did a good job. You did the motherland proud. So yeah, Danny O'Dwyer, what a freaking boss, dude. Yeah, this guy's great. Like I mentioned earlier, this dude guest stars on the Giant Bomb podcast, which I don't know if you guys know the Giant Bomb podcast. I will say, unfortunately, it's not what it once was, the Giant Bomb podcast. So if you look at it right now, I don't want to spread any hate or any negativity, but the podcast has changed a lot over the years. I'll just say that. But this guy's on it, and even I think maybe even now he's still on it, but he was on it for like a long time, and this guy's really great. I've heard him a lot, so I didn't remember that he actually did these though. But that guy, yeah, really great work. I mean, the cinematography, great. You know, he did a great job with the interview. You know, just put a mic in front of him, ask dudes questions. You know, he did it right. Yeah, he did great. Yeah, this was really cool. Yeah, there's 2 more parts to it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna. So, one thing I guess. So, like what I was saying at the beginning, people always tell me all of the things. I don't think I really learned anything very new here, other than the fact that Yoshi P took two different people's jobs. That was something new. I didn't know he did that. That was cool. And even though it wasn't really new information that I heard, it was really cool to just hear it from the people's mouths, you know, like that did it. You know what I mean? Like it's cool to listen to it like Yoshi P talk about it. It was very much more impactful than like somebody in like my YouTube comments or chat like trying to tell me about it. It's like it's better to like listen to Yoshi P talk about it. So that, you know, I felt a little more weight of like the like importance, or like even like that one like guy that was like yeah how he talked about like his first video game, which was my first video game too, which is really cool. And then like also like the other guy that was like some executive, and like how he's like, oh, like he basically was saying like we were running out of money, but he like said it in like an elegant way. Yeah, part 1, very prologue to the stories for sure. Yeah, because they had to set up the characters, and I think also I really glad that they set up the Koji Fox character and you got his backstory, because it makes him very endearing. You know, I very much understand why people can relate to him and really like him. He's a really endearing character. You can tell he really like has a lot of care and excitement and love for what he does. Pretty much everybody. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, good stuff. Koji Fox. Yeah, dude, everyone just loves Koji Fox so much. He's so good. I love him so much. We should get a Koji Fox plushie.